Hey everyone, I hope you all are having a great day. And I want to thank you all for always joining me and listening to my videos. It means the world to me. I know it's been a long time. With that said, I have some interesting stories regarding kidnappings and just creepy people. With that said, sit back and relax. When I was 16 years old, I got approached by two women in my neighborhood that asked me if I wanted to know about Jesus. I felt bad walking away as they seemed nice, so I let them speak to me. They invited me to their church and told me to come that Friday night. I invited my boyfriend at the time because I thought, what the hell? Maybe we can learn something about a new religion. When we got to the church, they made everyone sit down and played a PowerPoint presentation about motherly love. It was mostly about animals and how animal mothers have love for their babies. For some reason, it was hilarious, and me and my boyfriend at the time had to stop ourselves from laughing. It was called the Church of God, and they basically believe God has two counterparts, and one is a woman called God of Mother. The two ladies I had spoken to had approached me at the end of the night and asked me if I wanted to get baptized next Sunday and give my life to God. I told them that I need to think about it because I still don't know much about the religion and wasn't sure of my relationship with God yet. There was a high school English teacher I had who was Christian, and I began to tell him about this church and the whole Mother Earth thing. And he told me in all his years of Christianity, he had never heard anything about God being a mother or a woman. He said to be wary of this church because it kind of sounded like a cult. After we had this conversation, I texted the main lady that was adamant about me getting baptized and told her I didn't think I wanted to do it. She got really angry and kept asking why. She told me I needed to do it and soon because if not, I would go to hell. I was 16. She called me at least 20 times and left me even more text messages saying I need to come back to the church next Sunday and get baptized before it was too late. I blocked her number. 2 weeks later, I saw her in my neighborhood, but alone this time. When she passed me, as we were walking, she noticed me and her facial expression turned extremely angry, and she got close to me and made these weird hand movements in my face. It looked like sign language, but aggressive. Then she walked away. 4 years later, I ended up working at a coffee shop in my neighborhood. One day, I locked the wrong gate while closing up and forgot a key inside and wasn't able to lock the outer gate. My friend was with me, so she watched the store and my boss told me to stop at her church down the block to get her a copy of the key. It was the same church I got invited to in high school. It was 10 p.m. on a Saturday night. I walked in hoping I wouldn't see the lady who tried to convert me and went to look for my boss. There was at least 50 women inside this church, all dressed up in wedding dresses, with veils over their heads. No men were in that church that night. It looked like they were doing some weird ceremony. My boss told me to make sure this never happens again, while giving me the key and told me that she doesn't like being interrupted during church. As I left, I just kept thinking, what the hell type of ceremony were they doing? And why were they all dressed up as brides at 10 p.m. on a Saturday night? I did more research into this church after that, and found out it was actually a cult. Something about that lady who tried to get me to join was so creepy though. For a little bit of background, I'm a 24-year-old female who loves scary stories, horror movies, true crime, etc. It takes a lot to scare me, though. I haven't actually experienced many things terrifying, life-threatening events, fortunately. On to the story. This was during the middle of August in North Texas summer, 2023, so the nighttime temperatures were around 100 degrees. My dad and one of my brothers, who's 11, drove an hour north into the countryside to go stargazing for my brother's scout merit badge. There were some twisted gravel roads in the forest as you approach Black Creek Lake. We got to see a coyote, a deer, and 2 raccoons. We live in a city, so we don't often see such animals. We thought that'd be our excitement for the night. We then finally made it to the recreational park grounds beside the lake. Layout is simple. If you're standing in the round parking lot, then the campgrounds are to the north and west, The lake is south, and the path in and out is east of us. There are no official campgrounds east of this recreational area, which is important for later. So we got there around 10 p.m. and set up. We were able to successfully see some stars through my telescope, as well as Saturn, which was exciting for us. Throughout this whole time, though, there were two parties, or what might have been one group, in the parking lot and surrounding nearby area. One party was kayaking, and then later fishing from the boat ramp area west of us. To the north, in the lot, were two cars. From that direction, we were constantly hearing a loud, irritating voice of a woman, who was obviously in a bad mood, and didn't want to be there. She continuously cursed at someone, or no one in particular, and at one point was mad at someone for taking her keys and obstructing her from driving, which obviously made it sound like she was drunk or under some other influence. At one point in the night, around 11 p.m., we hear someone loudly, sporadically honk one of the car horns, over and over in random patterns. Then we hear the obnoxious woman rudely tell someone to wake up, over and over again, then proceeding to hold down the horn for a few seconds at a time, and continuing her assault on the horn in our ears. By this point, my family and I are just about to be ready to leave due to the loud commotion. I personally was fixing to go over there myself and tell her off, but I knew that probably wasn't the best idea. I definitely didn't want to put myself and my unborn baby in any danger. Then, for about 20 to 30 minutes, we were able to watch the stars in relative peace, with little noise coming from the other two parties. Fortunately, none of these people were directly involved with what happened next, but it may have been the cause of it. So just before midnight, we packed up our stargazing stuff and got into the car. Now, the gravel path to exit is up a slight hill or slope, meaning from the parking lot you can't see past where the path goes up, and around a couple trees. We drive up the hill, and just as the headlights come back down to illuminate the path in front of us, and the trees to our right side, it was right then and there that we see a man wearing only black shorts and no shirt. The timing was straight out of a horror movie to just suddenly see someone out of nowhere. He was in his late 20s or 30s and had short dark hair. Just as the light hit him, he was standing and walking right there, just to the right of our car, in front of us, at a very close distance, only a couple feet away. Guy had been walking towards our direction, and upon seeing us, quickly raised both his arms to flip us off with both hands. He keeps his hands and arms raised, and is quickly and loudly saying something to us with anger, or something in his voice. We couldn't understand what he was saying, though, since we had the radio on and all this happened quickly. The second the man saw us, he started walking toward our car faster. My dad was driving slowly, initially to avoid the agitated man, thinking he might need help. My dad in a confused voice says, "What is he doing?" But I just replied with, "Nope, go, go, go," and we sped off. I knew that this was not a situation where we needed to stick around and ask questions. It freaked me out a little imagining what would have happened if the guy had reached the car a few seconds later, if we hadn't sped off. I'm not very familiar with my dad's car, and it scares me that I might have ended up pressing the wrong button to lock my door, and the guy could have opened it and done who knows what. We left and never had anything else happen, but we did wonder, who was that guy? And where he came from? The direction he was walking from had no official campgrounds, only the forest. Maybe he lived in one of those scattered houses in the woods we'd passed by on our long journey. I wondered why he had been walking in our direction, towards the recreational area. My best theory is that he wanted to confront the group that had been honking the horn and waking up the entire forest. But open seeing our car leave, maybe he thought it had been us making that racket. Even if that's not it, or the man needed help, which is likely not it, considering his reaction to us, I couldn't help but feel a sense of danger. I hope that no harm came to those other parties that night. A couple of years ago, I moved out of my dorm room and into an apartment. Of the few pieces of furniture that we had in the dorm room, none of it was mine, so I was basically in need of everything. I had more money than I did before and was planning to save for a few more months before making a bunch of purchases on things for the apartment. But there were still a few things that I did need right away. One of these was a bed frame, but they were all really expensive. And after buying a new mattress, I was really not trying to drop a whole stack of cash on a frame. I pulled up a few used furniture sites, but landed on Craigslist because it had the most postings. A lot of them were really cheap or even free, but they all looked horrible. When I came across one that wasn't too bad, it was just plain old, wooden bed frame that didn't look too beat up. I sent a quick email asking if it was still available, then went on with my search. A minute later, I got a reply. The man said it was still available for $35. That was a perfect deal for me, so I quickly accepted his offer and we set up a time to meet later that day. At 6, while I waited, I unboxed some things and moved a bunch of stuff around in the bedroom to make some space for the frame. And then at 5:30, the man emailed me his address. It was 20 minutes away in an area that I hadn't been to yet, though I wasn't exactly familiar with anywhere too well since I just moved. I grabbed some cash and headed out. As I drove, I looked around, frankly trying to get myself familiar with what was around. But about halfway there, everything sort of dropped off the town. I was in very quickly ended, and the area became a lot less populated with buildings and houses. It was not what I expected. As I got to the neighborhood, I felt a little bit better seeing that the houses weren't too far apart, and it did look mostly normal. However, they were definitely not nice looking houses. I pulled up to the address and parked in the driveway. The lights were on and the front door was left open. I got out and walked up, ringing the doorbell. The man came a moment later. He was tall and heavy, wearing a hat and jacket. As he invited me inside, he didn't really look strange in any way, but something about him made me feel strange. It was just the way he talked. I guess kind of like we'd been buddies for years. So I followed him upstairs and down the hallway that led to his small spare bedroom. We stepped into the room and I was immediately confused. The room looked occupied with a dresser, nightstands, and even clothes laying around. And even the bed frame had a mattress on it with sheets and blankets. I clarified with him that I was only wanting to buy the bed frame and not the mattress or anything else, and he said of course. I looked back over at the bed frame, seeing it looked like it was fine enough, so I'd said I'd buy it. He smiled and offered to help me drag it out to my truck, but said he'd want a drink before we get it to the van. The man walked back into the hallway and came back surprisingly fast with 2 glasses of beer that he must have been keeping in the next room over. He held one out to me, but I politely declined. He looked confused and said it'd be fun, acting like as we might as well hang out since we're here. I told him I was really busy tonight and really just wanted to buy the bed frame and head out, but he was getting really pushy. His smile became noticeably less genuine as he urged me to have a drink with him. I quickly stepped past him and into the hallway, just to not be cornered in the small room, and I told him I was just going to leave. I turned to walk out, and he immediately changed his attitude to being overly nice, apologizing and asking if I wanted to take the bed frame for free. I ignored him, walking faster down the stairs, as I heard the man coming after me, down the hallway. I was able to leave before he ever caught up, and only saw him standing at the front door as I pulled away. Maybe he was just some lonely guy living out there that wanted a buddy to hang out with, but it was all just a little too strange. I mean, the bed and room were clearly in use by someone. When I got home that night, I checked the posting again, but it was gone. From my memory though, I knew the frame was shown by itself with no mattress or anything, and come to think of it, it's even stranger that it wasn't like that when I got there, considering his intent was to sell it. But whatever that man was up to, I didn't like it. I want to thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed those stories. You're the reason why I continue to do so. Even though I've been taking some breaks, I just have been a lot going on. But with that said, as always,